What is it like when you put the ever popular Solinco Hyper-G in the main with Solinco Hyper-G round in the cross, which is part of Solinco's Hyper-G hybrid string system? It's a setup that, to be honest, has surprised me how I think this is actually a better setup in some respects than Hyper-G in a full bed. That's highly subjective, of course. It's incredibly powerful. It spins like crazy. You can hit a really heavy ball, but there is more control on this than Hyper-G by itself, which, depending on what you're looking for, could be a good or a bad thing potentially. So if you are an aggressive player who likes hitting through the ball, who appreciates massive amounts of spin, but who does want to bring in an element of control to their game without sacrificing power, come find out if this setup could be for you. So this is a hybrid that I have been wanting to try for a while because I've always liked Hyper-G as a string, but I've never got on with it because I find that after a certain amount of time, it just becomes way too lively and I feel like I lose control of the ball, particularly when you get into a really hard rally with the ball coming really quite fast. Solinco have this as part of their Hyper-G hybrid string system, where they say actually depending on which way you put this round, they would suggest different characteristics. With the way that I have it here, the Hyper-G in the main and the Hyper-G round in the cross, it's more for generating a lot of spin with a deep, heavy ball. And I would agree that's exactly what you get. I've strung this in my Technifiber T-Fight 300. I've done it at 52 pounds in a main bed with a 10% pre-stretch. Why? That's how I play Solinco Confidential, my everyday string. I find for me 52 pounds suits my game very, very well. And I personally put the pre-stretch on just simply because I like to stiffen it up a little bit, but also I find that it does help over an 8 to 12 hour period reduce the big tension drop off, but it does stiffen up the bed quite a bit. For both of these strings, you can buy them about £10 a packet. You can buy it together as part of the Hyper-G hybrid string system. As a reel, if you were to buy a reel of either of these, you can get them for about £120. You can probably get them on sale, but that's about the price point you're looking at. So it's a really great price string, and I think that's why Hyper-G is incredibly popular. So on court, I did find, unsurprisingly, I've played with Hyper-G before, it gives you massive spin, and if you think about it, this is a square string with a round string in the cross. So you should be able to get both the bite from the ball with the square string, but also the snapback with the string being able to slide across the round crosses. And the spin on this was really, really pleasing. Some of the arc I could get going, particularly on my topspin backhand, was really, really pleasing. What did surprise me were two things. One is, it is quite a stiff setup, and that's partly down to the tension and the pre-stretch, I'm sure, but it certainly, it was stiffer than, let's say, a full bed of Confidential. The other thing that surprised me was it felt way more controlled than Hyper-G by itself. Certainly had power and a bit of liveliness, but the round does seem to bring in control. Solinco market the round for power and control. That said, I didn't necessarily feel like I could confidently hit hard through the ball without really focusing on A, stepping in and really driving in through the ball, but B, also putting spin on. In fact, what I did find after a while, I normally play Eastern forehand. I started slipping round to, I don't know if you call it a weak Eastern, or even, not quite semi-Western, just because I found I really did have to emphasize putting spin on if I was going to be that aggressive. And actually I felt like I did need to be aggressive, particularly on forehands. I don't feel like I could have sat back on this and just kind of counterpunched or defended. This is quite an aggressive string. For me, this is for attacking. It did have good touch, had good feel on the volleys. I did like that. I wouldn't say it's got the best connected feel, but then anytime you're getting something which brings in power and liveliness, you're probably going to be sacrificing a little bit of that sense of the dwell or the connected feel to the ball. But it certainly wasn't where I just felt like it was pinging off, like when I tried Solinco Mark 10. On serves, I felt like I could rip with this, very pleasing. Returns also, I mean, I was only hitting with my wife, but I felt with this, I'd be able to really hit through the ball. I do think though, maybe on the return, where I do feel like you have to really confidently block through it, I think maybe there I would feel a little bit wanting on the control side, and just in terms of having the confidence to play as I wanted. I'd have to maybe think about controlling this rather than, let's say again, if I compare it to Solinco Confidential, with that string, I can just hit through the ball and I know it's going in if I just get the feel of it. From the tension maintenance and durability, you can hear a bit of notching there, but I would say it's pretty superficial. It doesn't really feel like it's cutting in, and I really was hitting quite hard with this for quite a period. I don't feel like there's been this sort of massive drop off, but again, I'm really sort of personally liking the pre-stretch, which I think helps mitigate that to some degree, and I'm not finding so far that that's causing strings to go dead prematurely. So who is this for? 100% this is for an aggressive baseliner, someone who really hits through, who's going to lean in maybe with that double hander, who's going to really get their weight in, stepping on the front foot, who's going to go after that ball and attack it, who wants to power through and really rip it into the corners. This is an attacking string setup. So if you want to take big cuts, but you are going to use spin to control it, rather than relying on the string itself, just having that control and precision, you are going to really love this setup. And I think if you are sometimes saying I'm hitting with a full bed of Hyper G and I crave that bit more control, putting round in the crosses, I think this really could suit you. Who it's not for, this does seem to stiffen up the bed quite a bit compared to Hyper G. Granted, again, the tension in the pre-stretch does contribute to that, but I think if you like Hyper G as it is, you might find this starts to become just slightly stiffer. So overall, Hyper G in the mains, Hyper G round in the crosses, a very powerful spin-oriented setup with, as far as I'm concerned, a more controlled and stable response than Hyper G by itself. It really rewards aggression. I think though it punishes hesitation, e.g. not stepping in and really plowing through with spin, and you can hit a seriously heavy ball with this. And at the price point, it's a very strong, competitive hybrid string setup. So for me, if you want that Hyper G experience, but you want to bring in a little bit more control, perhaps try putting Hyper G round in the crosses. If you tried this out, it'd be great to know what your experience was, what racket did you try it in, and what tension did you string at? Put your thoughts in the comments.